Welcome home. We are WNST. Tassel, Baltimore, Baltimore Positive. We are positively at Fadley's. We're doing the Maryland Crab Cake Tour. It is brought to you by the Maryland Lottery. I have my Raven scratch-offs. It's a $20,000 top prize, which is more than 10. John Martin was on with us this week talking about these things, and there's a whole bunch of entries and ways to win a big trip to New York, as well as tickets for life and cool stuff there. Our friends at Jiffy Lube Multi-Care also powering this up. We're in the middle of the Maryland Oyster Tour. I'm doing 26 oysters in 26 days. Today is day 13. We are at Fadley's.
Wow.
Damie is here. She's going to bring me fried, fried, roasted, baked, char-grilled, and raw. And we're going to have them all. So you're Mr. Chesapeake Bay, Anne Arundel County, 3rd District guy. Congressman John Sarbanes is here, the outgoing, not running for anything. Running for the hills, maybe, is where he's running for.
Yeah.
The Bay, and we talk about the Bay, and Damie brought me a couple fried oysters a couple years ago. And I ate them right here on the set, or in the old location. And I said, I don't know that I've ever had a fried oyster. She's like, what? And I'm like, well, it's further down the menu. I'm getting the crab cake, the shrimp, the steak, the chicken, the veggie, the salad. I like oysters, but I don't ever think to order them. They're never first on the list. I got 6 on the half. The night I was here with you, we had a couple, right? If they're there, I'll eat them. But they're not first. And she's like, well, you got to make them first because they oxygenate the bay, and then when the bay's oxygenated, that's how the crabs live in the grass, and that's why we take the shells here, and there's a recycle booth right there, shells only, right?
Yep.
And she started to educate me, and I'm a Schoolhouse Rock guy, John, so the more I learn, the more dangerous I get, but the bay has been a really important part of, I think, when I had Martin O'Malley here a couple years ago, he said that was the only thing at the end, Governor, that's the thing he's most proud of, is that the bay is the most important thing going on around here. Not just for crabs or crab cakes, economy, just everything about the bay and how unique a water mass it is on the planet.
No question about that. And my district has always touched a lot of the bay. I mean, I've had Annapolis from day one in my district, even when the shape of the district was changing. I've got a lot of the coastline. The Bay coastline is part of the 3rd District of Maryland.
That's a Jeopardy question, by the way. We have more water coastline than any state in the country.
Yeah. On top of that, growing up as a kid, I used to go down to Salisbury to visit my grandmother, and we would go crabbing in the Nanticoke River and so forth. So, I grew up with the Bay in me, and ever since I got to Congress, that's been a number one priority. Our delegation from Senator Cardin on down is, we're champions of the Chesapeake Bay. We take it very seriously. We understand that it's this natural and national treasure from an environmental standpoint. It's also a huge regional driver in terms of the economy. I mean, you think about these various fisheries
everything you're selling here.
Yeah, everything that's here. That drives a huge part of the economy around it. Tourism around the bay is huge. So I've been proud to be part of these efforts to reauthorize, the Chesapeake Bay program, the Gateways and Water Trails program, which is a cultural and sort of tourism-based effort to pull people towards the Chesapeake Bay. I'm working with Senator Van Haan right now in the Chesapeake National Recreation Area, which would create this sort of larger footprint in the National Park Service around the Chesapeake Bay. Anything we can do to keep that elevated as a priority, we need to do. And of course, when you're in places like this, you understand how good it is to eat these things coming out of the bay. Talking about oysters, this. Our delegation has worked really hard to fund restoring these reefs and other things for the oysters because they do clean a lot of the water.
Next Thursday, I'm doing the show right down the street here at B&O Railroad. Oyster Recovery Partnership. It's their Super Bowl. Next Thursday night, 26th.
Yeah.
We're broadcasting. I'm having all the farmers on, and I'm going to go Schoolhouse Rock on how the oysters bed on top of each other to grow them healthier, to grow the grasses healthier, to keep the water clean, just every part of it.
And look, we used to have billions of oysters here, and then it went down. We're building that back up. We got to watch out for a lot of these stocks, the crab stock, the oyster stock, the rockfish, and so forth. And we got issues with some of these invasive species, the blue catfish and what.
Still waiting to eat a snakehead. I haven't had any snakehead yet.
So we got to be vigilant to make sure we're doing the right thing for the Chesapeake Bay. Keep it moving forward, protect it, preserve it, enhance it. That's been a proud part of my legacy and my time in Congress, our delegation is going to keep pushing that forward, and that's like absolutely the right thing to do if you're from this state, no question.
I was down in Orlando in March for the NFL owners meetings, and my phone went off about 3:30 in the morning. My web developer, Jessica from Hartford Designs, her husband is a diver with the city, and the city police department was called at 2 o'clock in the morning when the dolly hit the bridge.
Yeah.
I mean, we just talked about January 6th as being something that's unthinkable, something we never would think about talking about, or your father, what he would. Your father came back, my father came back, who worked at the point underneath of that bridge every day, and said, boat ran into the bridge, knocked it over. What? I mean, that seemed inconceivable. And to your thing about AI and faking things, it looked like a deep fake video when I woke up at 3 in the morning and started seeing it on Twitter until I put on CNN, and the first thing I saw was Johnny O at 5:30 in the morning on the site with police chiefs and fire chiefs. Where were you that day, and how does that affect a congressman, especially when the bridge is in your water? Let's be honest.
Well, look, it was a body blow to all of us because that's iconic.
I cried.
Right?
I was in Florida crying, and I couldn't figure out why I cried.
It's because it's part of you. It's part of your sense of the city. It's one of the things that anchors you in Baltimore and in this region. And when that thing, you just see it crumpling. It didn't crumble. It crumpled like it was paper mache when that ship hit it. But in every crisis there's opportunity. In every challenge that presents adversity, there's the opportunity to step up and show what you're made of. And the partnership, the combination you saw among elected officials at the federal, state, and local level, and community people and nonprofit organizations who stepped into the breach and said, we're going to build back from this. First, we're going to clear that harbor so we can restore the boat traffic coming in because we need that for the economy. But then we're going to go right into this conversation about how that bridge is going to be rebuilt, bigger and better.
And also the importance of our city and the importance of the port and the importance of our region. And, we are a big deal. We are important. In a lot of ways.
It gave us a chance to do a tutorial about exactly that, like how important the port is for the country. I mean, when we were making our case to our colleagues in Washington that we needed the dollars to flow in from the federal government, we were saying, this is not a local bridge, this is not a regional bridge, this is a national bridge. It's part of the commerce of our country, and here are the statistics. And you start putting those statistics in front of them, you're like, my God, this is amazing.
You want a car in Missouri? Fix our bridge in Maryland, right?
Exactly
right. Yeah,
exactly right. So the fact, now, I have never seen, and most people who've been in the business of salvaging have never seen before, the cooperation you had from all of these different federal agencies that came together and cleared that channel in 11 weeks. I mean, on the first day, most people would have said, this is going to take 11 months or whatever.
Well, that Norfolk or these other areas would just usurp the business.
Right.
And it might take so long that we won't get that business back. And I think that was
Baltimore was like, not so fast.
I like that.
We can get this done, and we're going to get back to business. And we did. I give the governor a lot of credit. He was sort of leading the team at the state level. The mayor, I think, did a terrific job stepping up and showing this was a priority. Everybody understood that, like, whatever else you're working on, you got to put that aside for a moment and focus
right?
on.
I mean,
it was bipartisan.
You would say that.
It was bipartisan, absolutely.
Well, it wasn't a Democratic or a Republican bridge.
No, it wasn't. And the people going across it are just Americans. When you're driving over the bridge, you're not going, I'm driving over a bridge as a Democrat or as a Republican. You're just an American trying to get to your job or your family or whatever it is. So I think, as tragic as it was, and we lost 6 individuals, obviously, in that tragedy, the opportunity it gave us to show, like, our true mettle as a city and a state is a legacy we're going to carry forward and we're going to build on. I was out at Fort McHenry the other day for Defenders Day. It was a beautiful night, by the way. And
is that where the fireworks came from?
Yes.
We saw. Okay, the fireworks went up, and I'm like, what was that? Okay.
the superintendent was drawing an analogy between, the Battle of Baltimore in 1814, where we pushed back on the British. They were coming from D.C., they'd burned the Capitol, and here was our city on the front line, and we stood up and we fought back and we leaned in, and so he made the connection. That's exactly what we did when this bridge fell. And of course, what's the bridge that fell? Was the Francis Scott Key Bridge.
There you go.
So it all is connected.
John Sarbanes is here. He's the good congressman from the 3rd District. He is not running for election, not running for anything today except running for the Hills. Davey gave him a crab cake, and I tried to get him to eat it here, and he's like, no. If I eat that before I get it home to my wife, I won't have a wife. So there better be a deuce there for the crab cakes. You mentioned Nancy Grasmick. You dropped some, and I do appreciate the fact that you had this life before service, but I would have thought even part of that was setting up this life of service that your father had. Now that it's all over, you dropped Nancy Grasmick. You talked about your background in education. Nancy Grasmick said, like, one of the kindest things ever to me last time I saw her. And as a journalist, because I was a student of John Stedman, and her husband were very close with John Stedman and Mary Lee. Education in the country and the fact that we can't agree on that. Last time I was here, I had Megan McCorkle from Enoch Pratt talking about burning books and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just education in the country and the importance, and we can't even get on the same page about what a good education is in this country.
Yeah.
I know you put a lot of work into it. I would think that's an area you're going to wind up coming back to before it's all over.
There's no question. And civics education, which is basically, teach our young people what their history is, what this country's been through, the challenges it's overcome, so they understand it. You don't have to do that in a partisan way. There's some basic facts that we hold in common, and if you share that with the next generation, they have a foundation that they can kind of build their life trajectory on that has a certain amount of patriotism to it as well, right? I mean, if you understand the history of the country, where we've come from, how we've pushed through adversity, crisis, over the course of 250 years, or we're coming up on that anniversary, that's part of who you are as an American. So we have to teach those what I call civics as a life skill, in my view, and it starts with good education. And Nancy Grasmick, I worked with her for 7 years when she was state superintendent. She's got more energy than anybody
to this day
on earth. She starts at like 5:30 in the morning. By the end of the day, she's got more energy than when she started, because she's pulling it out of everybody she's coming into contact with. And when I worked for her, I was working on Baltimore City school issues. It was when there was this partnership between the school system and the State Board of Education. So I said, Nancy, we're going to have to stay in communication on things. I need a regular time every week where I know I can get your ear for maybe 20, 30 minutes. So she looked at her calendar. She said, I'll give you 7 a.m. Wednesday mornings. So every Wednesday morning for 7 years at 7 o'clock in the morning, I would meet with Nancy Grasmick. And talk about a mentor.
You were more awake at 7:31.
Yeah. I mean, I learned more from her than just about. I've had 2 Nancys in my life that have been incredibly impactful on me. One was Nancy Grasmick. The other was Nancy Pelosi. And they're both these role models of people that are tireless, who, when they get power, understand power is to use not to advantage yourself, but to pull the community forward. You do it for other people. And both of them have that kind of service commitment in spades. And they both made
women of a
incredible
different era, when women of that era, and we'll throw Barbara Mikulski right on in there, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, women of incredible courage. Barbara Mikulski, daughter of a baker in Highlandtown. Nancy Pelosi, totally different.
Yeah.
Daughter of the mayor, right?
Yeah.
And the mayor's mayor, right?
But they have a grit and a determination, and they've had to keep breaking through these barriers. And when you break through a barrier,
Makes you
learn. Yeah, you learn. Hey, I can break through the next barrier, and they just keep on going. But every time, like I say, all 3 of those that you just mentioned, every time they break a barrier, they know they're not breaking it for themselves. They're breaking it for other people.
What do people need to know about Nancy Pelosi? Because I don't have many people on the show who really know her well. Ted Venetoulis, now that he's gone, God bless him, and the banner and all that. But people that really know Nancy from before she went to San Francisco when she was a girl here, you'd have to be 75 or 80 to be of that era. Yeah. But you've had 2 decades where she's this decorated person on the other side of the country, but I'm sure she's got to shine to you because she's got a Baltimore thing. When she comes on the show with me, she's got a Baltimore thing.
When I represented Baltimore, I represented where she grew up. And so I had to make sure I did a good job with those constituents.
She checked in on you.
Or she'd be throwing me off my committee or something like that. But first of all, she's absolutely tireless. Another one of these people that goes all day long, never misses a step. Number 2, she's got a deep compassion for people. I mean, her heart is gigantic. But number 3, she understands that you got to figure out a way to take the heart and the head, put them together, and get things done. Like, it's not enough just to care about something. If you have the power to change it, to make the situation better, you have a responsibility to go do that. So every day when she gets up in the morning, she's thinking about, how do I move things forward for children? I mean, she talks about children all the time, an agenda to improve the lives of children. That's what motivates her 100% of the time. She's tough as nails, but all that toughness is going to work to improve the lives of children in this country and their families. That's basically, it's simple. And if you get up with that and you stay focused on that, you can have a huge impact, and clearly she has.
I've only got 2 minutes left, but how do we fix Congress? I'd save the tough one to the end.
Everybody asks that question.
Well, that's why I wanted to ask. Yeah, that is
you know
literally,
what? So Congress is
If I said I had Sarbanes on, they say, tell him to fix it, is what they give me to you.
Congress is full of people who represent, each of them, 770,000 Americans. And a lot of times, those Americans are sending their representatives to Washington with the mandate, go fight. Not go work together, go fight. So I think the way you fix Congress is you step back out into the country, into communities, and you say, let's start talking to each other at this level.
So I don't have to go there and fight.
Right.
Or want to go there and fight.
Well, or when you send somebody to Washington, you're sending them with a collective message of go get good things done for us. Don't go up there with a baseball bat. But a lot of times, because people are like this out in the country, that just translates to us being that way in Washington. So we have to fix this back at the grassroots level. We got to start talking to each other again. We got to bridge these gaps. And we have divides inside families now politically. We've got to find some kind of way to repair that. If we can't do that, there's no amount of tinkering or solutions you can throw at the problem in Washington that's going to fix it. In fact, we've had all these all these groups come in who are used to doing mediation, and they all come in and they're like, we're going to show you how to fix this place. And 6 weeks later, they leave and they're like, we can't do it.
Well, if you don't want a solution, I mean, and listen, then next time I have you on, you'll just be a citizen and you can talk some issue if you want, but we got a party that really is anti-government. So when you send someone who doesn't like government to D.C.,
you're absolutely right.
They're only there to be obstructionists. They're really not there to be. And it's not about kissing and making nice, but they are not there to get a solution. They are there to be.
They don't believe in the institution fundamentally, and that's not a good starting point if you want to get things done. And unfortunately, that's where a lot of these folks are. We can build back from it. I'm optimistic. We can find the best of ourselves and turn that into the way our politics and government
work. If
I
didn't believe that, I don't know I'd be able to go on.
Yeah,
any of us. If we didn't have a belief that this is going to get better and we can make it better, then that's why we're here. Go eat your crab cake.
All right.
What are you going to do when you're done? I mean, you get a little vacation, January 5th. I mean, you're going to go to Italy like Damien?
I got to make a living, so I got to figure out something to do.
You got to get a job, huh?
Yeah, so I'm not eating macaroni and cheese and ramen every day, but Not
Well, you're a
that there's
good
anything
co-host
wrong
on this
with
program.
that. Yeah.
You know, I mean,
okay.
you can keep me square on.
Yeah.
I need a lawyer around that knows all the Schoolhouse
You
Rock
can pay me
stuff.
$1, give me a scratch off, and that'll be my compensation. You know.
January 5th, you'll get a scratch off when he's no longer serving. John Sarbanes here. He's our good congressman from the 3rd District. That's Anne Arundel County, Howard County, all the way up. I call it the Route 100, straight on up. Part of Carroll County, correct?
Tiny little bit of Carroll County.
Just a little bit, Mount
Yes.
Airy up in that area. We're doing the Oyster Tour down here as well. It's all brought to you by the Maryland Lottery in conjunction with Jiffy Lube Multi-Care, our friends at Curio Wellness, as well as Liberty Pure Solutions. Have me eating these oysters. Liberty Pure Solutions keeps my water clean, and the oysters keep the bay clean. So that's the way it works. My thanks to Congressman John Sarbanes.
Thank you.
Enjoy yourself when you're done. To breathe a little bit when you're done, and then come back and kick ass and help people.
Amen.
All right.
All right.
His favorite crab cake in the world is right here at Faidley's. If you've never had one, and sometimes I talk to people that don't know, get on down here and have a good time. We're going to be at Costas next Friday. We're going to be at Pizza John's. Yes, they have a crab cake at Pizza John's. Pretty good, too. We're going to be down there on the 11th. I've invited Dutch. We'll see if Dutch can. That's his favorite pizza.
Yeah,
I'm trying to feed Dutch before he gets out as well.
Yeah.
So the Maryland Crab Cake Tour is back out on the road. My birthday is October 14th. Luke as well. So the October 11th will serve as our collective birthday experience. Hopefully the Orioles are still playing baseball on October 11th. He's John. I'm Nestor. We're back for more here. James Bond from the Living Classrooms Foundation will join us, as well as Damie. We're going to eat oysters in our next segment. I can't wait. Stay with us. We're at Faidley's.